Welcome, everyone. This is the Committee of Adjustments meeting for the Township of Centre Wellington on July 15th, 2021. I'd like now to call the meeting to order. We'll start off by asking the committee members if there's any disclosures of pecuniary interests at this time. Okay, seeing none. We'll move to confirm the meeting minutes from the previous meeting. Can I have somebody to approve and move that motion?
I can move it.
Okay, thank you, Fernando. Can I have somebody to second that, please?
I can second it.
Thank you, Kathy. So we'll move to confirm the minutes from the previous meeting. And then we'll move on to our one and only application for this meeting. This is file AO17/2021. The property is located at 769 Tower Street South in Fergus. And relief is being requested under this application to permit a drive-through service facility at a reduced distance of 6.97 meters or 22.9 feet, as opposed to the required setback distance of 30 meters, 98.4 feet to the limits of a residential zone. The effect of the variance is to facilitate the creation of a drive-through service facility within an existing commercial restaurant. Chantel, could you confirm that signage has been posted at the property?
Yes, I can confirm that the notice requirements were met by the applicant.
Okay, thank you for confirming. Ms. Bangash, are you the agent or the applicant on this file?
I'm the agent as well as the applicant of the file, and I'm representing the restaurant owner.
Okay, thank you very much. So I'd like to ask for you at this time, just to provide in your own words, the rationale for this request, please.
Yes, so we are requesting relief for the setback from the residential zone to the drive-through, where the requirement is, and we were able to locate speaker at 24 meters. The drive-through curbs are going to begin at 6.97 meters. In the basis of our asking for this relief. In this application, we hired a noise who actually advised us on where to place the speaker and how it will be meeting the requirements for the noise control from the speaker and will not be a nuisance to the residential side. Residents, although the zone begins at the property line, however, the residence has also got a backyard. So we feel that this is this variance is minor in nature, and it's a desirable thing for the town to have a drive-through for that existing restaurant. And we worked closely with the staff, and I appreciate all their support and their help for our application. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I'd like to now ask if any members of the committee have questions for Ms. Bangash. Yes, Aaron?
Yeah, one question. Where the vehicles will be queuing down the side of the building, did the applicant, I know the engineer or the consultant only looked at noise, but did you look at light pollution from headlights shining into the backyards or the rear windows of those units?
Yes, Mr. Aaron, that was considered, and there is that is dividing the commercial and residential property, and it's a boarded fence and light, and it's 1.8 meter high, so the headlight or polluting the backyard fences, and we did consider it, yes.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Yes, Kathy?
I was wondering whether there was any information or study done on whether this will impact traffic on number 6 highway going in and out, or do the applicants feel as though there's enough space with people trying to get in and out and waiting to get in and out of the drive-through that it's not going to impact traffic?
So traffic impact is not a requirement from the planning perspective, since this is a much larger commercial plaza. And we feel that this, the traffic that is generated from the drive-through should meet the requirements that any commercial plaza traffic is going to generate. So, and it was not a required study from evaluations with them. So traffic was discussed with planning staff, yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Kathy. Yeah, I kind of agree with your point there, Kathy. Maybe you were sort of alluding to the fact that with the relocated speaker board location, that there's less room for vehicles to queue in behind where that is, and that may sort of encroach onto traffic coming in from Highway 6. So yeah, I would agree that, you know, that definitely has some consideration here.
So you will see that, you know, there is space behind the speaker box, at least 4 cars to queue up. And there are 2 additional stacking spaces also provided.
Thank you. Fernando, do you have any questions at this time?
Yeah, after looking at the noise report, I noticed that they recommended to put the speaker on the northern part of the building. So by doing that, will that reduce the noise under like the 15 levels that they mentioned? I noticed that the recommend that you guys mentioned putting some landscape, but landscape don't block noise. So I just want to know if
So
that
our
would be sufficient.
original location for the speaker box was actually at car number 5, which was a preferred option by the franchisee, but we moved it to car number 9 that to move the speaker box at least 24 meters away from the line. And what is a result of that recommendation from consultant. It was originally between 4 and 5 numbered cars.
Okay. I also have a question for staff. So the adjacent restaurant on Harvey's, where is that speaker located? I don't remember.
Did you want to take that, Randy? Because I think you might know that a little bit better. I'm not 100% sure where the speaker itself is located.
So from what I understand, and the site plan that I've looked at, the speaker box and the menu board that you order at is located about midpoint on the side of the building. So you would drive up and you would order and speak to the person, and then you would drive down the side of the building and around the back of the building, and then back up to the window, I guess, on the opposite side of the building to pick up your order and pay for it. I'm not sure if, Neelam, do you have an exact measurement for the speaker box from the back property line that abuts residential? I believe I've seen one, and I think it's a fair distance away.
It's
Sorry, Randy.
25
They were asking
meters.
about the Harveys Fernando was
Oh.
asking about where the Harvey speaker box is located.
Oh, goodness, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah,
I think it's at the back. I
My
think that one
apologies.
is,
So the thing that's unique about Harvey's is it was actually a donut shop before Harvey's. So the menu, if you will, the speaker box and the menu board, it is absolutely at the back of the building where it's always been. So you do pull up alongside it to the rear, which is absolutely not that far from the residential zone. And that's where you order. I'm sorry, Fernando. I got on a tangent about the Popeyes and lost my thought.
That's fine.
actually, I can add to that. I think, so now I do recall now that it is at the back. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, Randy, it actually faces the residential zone, that
Oh, it
speaker
does.
box.
Yeah, it absolutely does. And so does the menu board and all of
Yes,
the
lights.
fancy LED graphics and the pictures of hamburgers and stuff. That all faces the residential.
And just to clarify, Fernando, I know you had asked, so for the Popeyes, the original location was at the back, as Neelam has explained. It was at the back and it was, I believe, facing the residential zone, right at the back of the building. And the recommendation in the noise report was to move it along the side to the north, along the north side of the building. So that's where it's reflected on the current site plan, and that's the one that we have reviewed. So that site plan already implements the recommendations that were made in the noise study to move the order box.
Okay,
that's
thank you.
correct. And our speaker box is 25.10 meters away from the property line.
So if I could just add one more thing, that distance is a lot more than Harvey's distance to the property line.
That's right. Harvey's is located at about 7 meters from the property line.
Could I just follow up with a question for staff? Is Harvey's a like for like comparison? I just, your opinion on it. It does back onto a parking lot, I believe, and not actual homes. And that the building, Harvey's, looks like it's about 10 meters further away from that back lot line. So I just want to make that, just want your opinion on if the two are comparable.
I'm just measuring it off here on the map, but you're right, it is slightly further, well, closer to the road, to Tower Street. So it's not as close, but I would say that menu board is much closer to the property line than what this one is, and is also facing, so it's facing the residential zone. And while the townhouses are not directly behind, you're right, there's a parking lot. I would say if you look at any of the maps that were submitted, the townhouses do start right at that property line, at that side property line. So might not be 100% comparable just because there are a few different elements there, but the impacts from the noise would be greater on the Harveys just because of the direction of the sound, the way it's facing the residential zone, and given the proximity to the rear property line. I still think the actual measurements of the Harvey's drive-through, like the order board, the speaker box, are probably closer to any noise reception point than this one would be, the closest noise reception point.
Thank you. And then just another follow-up to what Fernando had brought up, and I think Brad too, maybe Kathy, sorry, it was brought up a few times, the queuing and potentially blocking the road if cars queue out that far. Harvey seems to have a comparable queuing lane as it kind of loops around the building. Are staff aware of any issues at Harvey's where queuing has actually ended up on the road and blocking traffic?
No, and maybe Randy can add to this, but we're not aware of any traffic issues or problems that have been noted there. This, as was mentioned already, this is a very large parking lot. It's shared with the adjacent property. And there are, I believe, 10, so the bylaw requires 10 stacking spaces. So they are providing 10, but if you look at the plan, there's actually more, technically there's more space, stacking space behind that 10th car. So there would be at least 4 more spaces behind that car. 2 are shown on the plan. There's probably another 2 to 3 before they would actually spill over onto the roadway. But there's also quite a bit, depending on how they're coming in. There are several access points here. So cars could technically queue in front of this restaurant if they're coming in from the entrance where the Shell is located, and also coming in from the other side. So there seems to be a lot more opportunity for queuing here outside of even the regular queuing lane. The only reason that's shown the way it is also because there is a 15-meter setback from the front. So from any part of the drive-through queuing or parking or spaces, there's a 15-meter setback required to the street line, which is just why they're not shown. But in actuality, there may be more queuing happening there. So technically there would be about 14, probably at least 14 spaces here that would be viable or functional.
Yeah, I agree with Mariana. I've never witnessed queuing even getting out towards the street at the Harveys. And in the case of this Popeyes, the same ownership of this building as the remainder of the plaza. And I honestly believe that if there was an overflow to the stacking lane that's already substantial for this type of restaurant, that the queuing would occur down the main aisle of the plaza, as opposed to out onto the street.
Thanks, Randy. I do have a couple questions for staff as well. The first question sort of builds off of what Aaron had mentioned at the start regarding light pollution. I just wasn't sure if there was an opportunity to maybe add additional landscaping to the proposed site plan as shown here. So I'm looking at the site plan now, and car 7, there are 2 sort of parking spots directly west. And those would sort of be directly in line with any headlights from queued cars at the menu board. I just wonder if there was an opportunity to maybe like remove those 2 parking spots and add additional landscaping that's sort of comparable to what's already presented. If that's something that's, feasible, or that's something that maybe we can consider.
I had the same thought, Brad. It looks like it stops a little bit short of where the impacts would be.
Yeah, and I think that's just reflected based on the existing site conditions. So that spot there where the trees are is a grassed area. But yeah, I think it wouldn't be a stretch to maybe just extend that a little bit to provide that visual break for traffic lights going directly into the, like, I know there's a fence there as well. I just wasn't too sure if the town could comment on that.
Sure, I can try to comment on that. I would like to be able to review the total parking calculations because I'm not sure. I know we were tight on parking, and with the stacking, I just want to know how exactly that would work. So first of all, before commenting on that, but it is an existing condition, so that is something that I would confirm. Also, the solid board fence is 2.1 meters high, which is quite a high fence. Typically, we would have a 1.8 meter high fence between properties. So this is already significantly higher and is a solid board fence. So it should assist with the lighting. They are providing the 5 trees, but we can look at definitely whether those 2 spaces, and I agree that it's probably the 2 spaces that if there was going to be anything done, that it could be, those 2 spaces could be removed and there could be some perhaps additional landscaping added there. I would, if the chair allows, ask Neelam to confirm the parking, if those numbers are available, just to know if we have 2 spaces that we could remove.
So we did a parking count of the whole plaza, and right now we just have 1 surplus space. The total required, including the commercial plaza, is 161 spaces, and we have 162 spaces and the 10 stacking spaces. So we are only surplus 1 space for the whole site plan. And additionally, the existing landscape there, and we do plan to enhance the trees there. We believe that it should be sufficient to not disturb the residential behind, because their backyard is about 8 meters, and that also has trees as well. Those are landscaped backyards that you have there. So yeah.
So I can add, I guess, if the committee, it looks like there would be 1 excess space. So if it's the committee's will to add that as a condition, that 1 space be removed, that can be done. That's possible. It would extend that sort of landscape buffer over a little bit more. It wouldn't be 100% covering the stacking lane, but it would definitely assist.
Okay, thank you, Mariana. My second question relates to, and I think this has been brought up on previous applications, is that the only public notice given for these types of requests for relief is just the postage of the sign, correct? So there's been no communication with any of the residents in behind if they have any concerns, and their only opportunity to sort of provide comment would be from viewing that sign on the property, right?
So through you, Chair, the notice is circulated to property owners within 60 meters. In this case, I believe that most of those properties that are backing on are condominiums. So in this case, it was sent to the condo declaration that looks after that. So it would be their responsibility to post it in a common area for people to view. That's what the Planning Act requires. So, but otherwise, neighbors on both sides of the commercial development would have received notice in the mail.
Okay, great. Yeah, thank you for confirming that. Yeah, I just wasn't sure if they had the opportunity to sort of review this. And I, fully suspect that, given the location and the existing land use within these, properties within the, site plan, they're, come to expect some sort of light and noise pollution. Okay, when we, Chantel, we did not receive any delegates who were for or against the applicant.
No, I didn't receive any written submissions. I just wanted to also note that in my report that I had included in the agenda, I didn't note that there was a condition that Mariana had put in her comments. So there is that recommended condition that she's about the noise study. So just wanted to point that out in case it was missed. But yeah, nothing else.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll move to have a roundtable discussion with the committee members to discuss the merits of this request. Fernando, would you like to start?
Yeah, I don't have any particular issues with this application. It seems like they're following the recommendations from staff and from the noise study. So I think I'm gonna move this application.
Okay, thank you, Fernando. Kathy?
Yes, I can support the application with Mariana's condition that the noise study requirements are followed. And I would also like to see that 1 parking spot used for more landscape buffer or a tree if that's possible. And then I can support this application.
Okay, thank you, Kathy. And Aaron?
So my concern was just how much of a reduction is being requested here, going from 30 meters to less than 7, to almost 80%. And question for staff, sorry I didn't ask this earlier. What is like the 30 meter that's in the bylaw? Is that like really intended to address just noise? Is it pollution? Is it like, do you feel that by moving the speaker and the menu board, that justifies reducing that setback by, over almost 25 meters or whatever it ends up being? It just seems like a lot given that the menu board and the speaker are being moved. Is that enough to justify?
Yes, thank you. Through you, what we look, I mean, it's multifaceted for sure because there are compatibility issues. So that 30 meter, the intent of that, generally speaking, is all things being equal with no mitigation measures. How far of a distance would we be looking at that would be generally acceptable? So it's about 100 feet, 30 meters, to say that maybe noise, light, odors, and those types of things associated with cars adjacent to a more sensitive land use like a residential zone would be appropriate. That's the type of distance that is figured to be generally appropriate. And I think that what we did is when we developed our bylaw, we looked at other bylaws, other municipalities and general practices, best practices. So that's what was put into our bylaw. However, what we look at then with compatibility, which our official plan requires, and the intent of that 30 meters is are there measures that can be put in place to maintain that compatibility and maintain the lack of negative impacts, so not create any additional negative impacts through certain mitigation measures. So in this case, it would be the tall fence, which is a solid board. And I can tell you that from several other developments where we've had residential adjacent to commercial, like along St. David Street North, and some of the new developments that have gone in there are a few townhouse developments. What we required there through a noise study, and even when there isn't a noise study, is a solid board fence. So solid board typically provides attenuation of sound and light. And so that is a general requirement. So in this case, where I recognize that the distance is about a third, so it is a significant numerical distance, the actual mitigation measures should be sufficient to let's say, what we want to ensure at the end of the day is that there are no negative impacts. So it would be the light and the sound would be the two primaries. There could be odor nuisances associated with automobiles, which probably isn't as much of an issue these days, just due to the efficiency of engines and how things have changed. But again, the landscaping should also help mitigate that, as well as the setbacks themselves for the residential zones. So I would say in this case, given that that is already a commercial parking lot, and in fact, the parking spaces go right up to the property line. So that was already a pre-existing condition and nuisance associated with automobiles. So I'm just not sure how much additional nuisance would be generated by this this drive-through that's being proposed, in addition to what was already there. So cars were already in existing condition right up to the property line, in fact, and this is set back further. So that's how we looked at it. That's sort of all of the information that we looked at in light of this application and the various factors that were considered. I hope that answers some of the questions.
Yeah, that's really helpful. Thank you. I can support this with the added condition that some additional landscaping and buffer, just given that those are going to be idling cars, not parked cars.
Thank you, Mariana. Thank you, Aaron. Yeah, I can also support this request as well, with the recommendations from the noise feasibility study being implemented, as well as the additional landscaping item within that one additional parking spot. So yeah, I'm in support of the application. Chantel, could you read the decision in support of the application with the 2 conditions?
Yeah, I'm just working on the second condition. Want to know how we should word it. Do you want additional landscaping in the existing landscape area as well as the additional, the conversion of the one parking spot to landscaping?
No, I think the proposed landscaping within the existing landscape spot is sufficient. I think we just want to add maybe one more landscape tree to that additional parking spot. Does anybody on the committee have anything to add?
I think the additional trees won't do much difference, to be honest. So that's just my opinion.
Okay, thank you.
So who's going to review the landscaping? Because we ran into problems with a condition like this before. Is it who's going to review it for completeness? Do we say the planning department?
Sure, I guess.
If I can I add something, Chair?
Sure, no problem.
Just want to be clear on what the committee is asking. If it's, I'm aware that it's the conversion or the extension of the buffer into the one extra parking space. And so if we could just make it really clear so that we know when we're approving it, that whether there is landscaping expected there, or is it just the removal of the space? And what type of landscaping? Is it one additional tree? So as specific as it could be, that would be requested.
Yeah, I think looking at the site plan, it does show, sorry, hang on one sec, 5 or 6 trees.
Yes, it's 5.
5 trees. So yeah, if we could add in one additional tree within that converted parking spot.
Sorry, I'm making notes quickly. Okay, how does this condition read for you guys? Sorry, the committee to extend the existing landscaping buffer into the existing parking space by adding one additional tree to the satisfaction of the senior planner?
Not to be nitpicky, but it seems like there's room for more than one tree, maybe 2. Like, can we say something to the effect of as many trees as possible? Like that, because obviously it depends on how much soil volume is there and tree health, but it seems like you could get 2 more in there.
So can I just add something again?
Yep.
Sorry. Chantal, I wonder if we might just want to run that by Madeleine. So we would probably just say that the buffer be extended, including additional trees, vegetation or trees, to the satisfaction of, and you might want to say the project, well, you could still say the planning department, but we would confer with our urban forestry project manager, so he would review. He could probably provide some advice, depending on the species of trees, how far apart those trees should be for appropriate buffer. Just so that we're not putting a number in there that might not be feasible.
Yeah,
if that's
that makes sense.
I was just going to comment on that because it all depends on the speech as well.
Okay. So we're going to say to extend the existing buffer into the existing one parking space by adding additional landscaping to the satisfaction of the planning and development department. Does that work?
Yeah. And then
I think that's fine. Sorry,
Yeah.
I don't know if you're waiting for me to comment.
No, the committee, because I'll read it out in entirety. Is everyone good with that?
Yeah, that sounds fine to me.
Okay. Okay, so I'm going to read the entire decision now. that in the matter of application for minor variance for relief from the Township of Center Wellington zoning bylaw 2009-045 as amended, section 5.1.4, permission be granted to permit a drive-through facility, a reduced distance of 6.97 meters, 22.9 feet in lieu of the required minimum distance of 30 meters, 98.4 feet. The effect of the variance is to permit the construction of a drive-through service facility in an existing commercial restaurant on lands described as 769 Tower Street South, Concession 1, Part Lot 12, west side of Tower Street South, Fergus, Township of Center Wellington, subject to the following conditions: that the recommendations made by HGC Engineering Limited in section 4.4 of the noise feasibility study dated May 21st, 2021 be implemented to the satisfaction of the chief building official prior to the necessary permits being issued, including the order box being located at a distance of at least 25 meters from the adjacent residential zone to the rear. And number two, to extend the existing landscaping buffer into the existing one parking space by adding additional landscaping to the satisfaction of the township, or sorry, to the satisfaction of the Planning and Development Department. Is everyone okay with that?
Thank you, Chantal. Could I get somebody to move that motion, please?
I can move it.
Thank you, Aaron. Somebody to second?
Yeah, I can second that.
Thank you, Fernando. So the request is approved. Ms. Bangash, following a 20-day appeal period before you can move on with the project.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair and the committee. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your
We'll
time.
coordinate further with the planning department. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move to discuss any other business with the committee.
I think, Brad, you need to actually do a vote and show of hands.
Oh, yep, thank you. Okay, we'll do a vote to show of hands to approve that motion. Okay, all in favor? You missed 1 month and you did everything.
I think we need the same thing for the minutes.
Yes, you're right. Okay, we'll do a show of hands to approve the minutes from the previous meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks. Is there anything else to discuss?
I don't have,
Chantal, I'll be away for the August meeting.
thank you. We do have a meeting scheduled. So if I have one application, it might be two. So that's August 19th. We'll have a meeting and we'll, I'll stick with the 2 p.m. start time. As we move into stage 3 and 4 of reopening, we may look at going back to in-person meetings, but I know that they're looking also at doing like a hybrid system where you might be able to be in Zoom, but also if you want, you can come into the council chambers. So I'll keep everyone on the committee up to date as to what the plans are as far as returning to in-person meetings and things like that, so we can plan, okay?
Thank you. Okay, we'll move to adjourn the meeting. Can I get somebody to move that motion?
I can move the motion.
Thank you, Kathy. And somebody to second?
I can second.
Okay, Fernando. And by show of hands to approve the motion. Okay. Thank you. That's carried. Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.